Welcome back to Grappling in Thought. And today we're doing video in the new studio. Hope you like it. I'll be doing a little bit more work, but yeah, I like it. And so today I want to talk about something that will completely change your conversations. Huge. And it's not being the funniest or having the best comebacks or anything like that. It's curiosity. It's genuine interest and curiosity. Because let's be honest, most of us are just listening to get our turn. We wait for a pause or take a breath or 1 second stop, and we respond immediately with often just an answer or how it relates back to us and our own story. And I'm guilty. I've been really focusing on this, what we're talking about today, so I've been doing a lot better and just catching myself. I do have my notebook to keep me on track, otherwise I will go all over the place for you guys, and so you're welcome. But if you think about it, if you've been in a conversation when someone has done that, you're telling a story, and as soon as you pause, they jump into their own story and they take it to them, it feels kind of crappy. We don't feel like we are heard. We don't feel seen. We don't feel understood. We kind of feel like they didn't really care about our story. They weren't really listening. They just were waiting their turn. And so it doesn't feel very good. But when we can be curious, and genuine curiosity, it has to be genuine, like genuinely be interested in it. But when we bring in curiosity to it, it shifts the conversation because you're now asking questions to them. That's what the curiosity is. It's whatever they're talking about, whatever's going on, you're asking questions to know more. And that gives them a feeling of being seen and heard and understood and having somebody be interested in them. When we can be curious, we're actually listening to understand what their story's about, but also deeper than that, who this person is, what they felt, what they experienced at a deeper level, the feelings and who they are behind this story. And sometimes when other people don't respond the way we want, we will come up with assumptions. We'll come up with the story in our head. So, like, for example, if a friend doesn't text you back, or someone doesn't text you back, or a friend blows up at you, or a teacher or a parent figure snaps at you, you might think that they don't like you, or they're mad at you, or you did something wrong. When in reality, it might have been they're just in a bad mood. They're stressed out. Something happened this morning or 10 minutes before you guys had your interaction. And we just don't know what other people are dealing with. And the majority of how people react and respond and really how they treat you is more about who they are and what they're struggling with on the inside than it is about us, than it is about you. That's so big to really understand that. But yet we make up these stories. And so instead of assuming stuff, ask questions. Just get curious about it. What else could be happening? Could they have anything else going on in the world other than me that's in front of them and talking to me? Of course, we all do, right? But sometimes we don't think that. We think that this is it. So if they snapped at me, it must be they're mad at me or I did something wrong. And so get curious and even ask questions. Ask them. So when I moved from Nebraska to California, my best friend, we just it seemed like we were drifting away. I felt like I was the one always calling and reaching out. And I almost just went with that assumption and left it at that. But I got curious instead. I was like, well, is there something else going on? Did I do something? But I want to know because I didn't think I did. So I had the conversation. I asked the questions, and we had a great conversation after that. It was just life. I'm so thankful that I did get curious and ask the question. Be curious over assuming. If you don't know the saying, assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So just ask. If somebody gets mad at you for asking, that's all on them. I'd rather ask than be wrong or just assume or make up this whole long story in my head. I do enough of those. I don't need any more that aren't true when I can just ask and get the right answer. When a friend seems off, instead of asking, what's wrong with you, ask a better question and say, what's going on with you? Is there something going on? Because the what's wrong with you is very blaming and accusatory. And so it can like shun people off. No, what do you mean, what's wrong with me? And get defensive. Whereas if you can ask something as, what's been on your mind lately? Or is something going on with you? Or is there anything you want to talk about? It's more inviting than just what's wrong with you or what's wrong. And sometimes we don't want that bluntness. We want it eased in. We want an invite, I guess, right? So better questions equals better conversations. Swap the why of why'd you say that to more of a how or what. What made you say it like that? Or what made you do it that way? It's more inviting. It's more open-ended. It's not so direct and, I guess, aggressive, accusatory. And then do the open-ended questions. Invite, be curious, be interested. And when you're genuinely interested and curious, those questions will come up. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think we feel like we have to know all the answers already. We don't. None of us know the answers. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go along. And so you don't have to know the answers. And so ask questions. You know what? A lot of times, if you ask a question, more than likely someone else has thought about it too and was too afraid to ask it. And if somebody makes fun of you for asking a question, it's on them. They're probably just jealous because they weren't brave enough to ask a question. So what? You're making fun of me for asking a question? Come on. Don't be afraid to speak up and ask a question, even if it seems silly or dumb. When we ask questions and we're genuinely curious and interested, it gives people that feeling of being interested in, being heard, being seen, being understood. And people want that. We all want to be understood and seen and heard. When I am sharing something and I get a feeling that honestly, any inkling that someone's not interested in what I'm saying or they don't care, I will shut down, cut my story short, and feel completely unheard, unseen, misunderstood, not cared for. And what I realized is that I grew up in a house where we talked over each other, I guess. Like everybody was talking. We were a very talkative family. But it would be like if somebody was telling something or talking, other people were giving feedback. Oh, really? That's cool. Awesome. What about this? What about that? And it would go, you just keep talking. And so I'm used to that feedback. I'm used to the questions and the curiosity. And so when someone now doesn't do that and they are just listening, I guess, quiet listening, that's when I can get a false inkling that they don't care or they're not interested. So that's on the receiving side of not asking questions. You're like, this feels weird. Like, okay, now it's over. And you wanted a conversation because conversations and curiosity builds connection. So when I don't get any feedback, the connection is kind of lost. But when we ask questions, when we're curious and interested and we want to know more, that builds connection because they feel seen and heard and understood. And when you're interested in somebody, it feels special. You make them feel special. And you can say what you want, but all in all, we all want to feel heard, seen, understood, and special. That's why when you date somebody, when you first get into a relationship, it's amazing and you feel so in love because they make you feel special. Their attention's on you. It's who we are. We're built for connection. Curiosity takes you from just listening to answer or listening to bring it back to you, to relate it to you. You're listening to actually understand, and not just understand what they're saying, but understand the deeper meaning, the depth behind the story. What about this person? You get to learn about the person. Because we can learn something from every interaction, every experience we have, every interaction, every conversation we have. We can learn something, even if you think they're bullshitting you. Like, they're full of shit. I don't believe anything you're saying right now. You can still learn something, and you can still be curious about it. Like, even if you think they're full of shit, you can be curious about what experiences have they had that make them bullshit people. Like, make them feel they need to lie, make them feel they need to exaggerate. Like, that's a real thing. Be curious. And so real listening isn't just like silence and waiting for them to finish. Okay, cool. Thanks for telling me the story. It's active curiosity. It's asking the questions. It's, oh, really? Okay, that sounds really neat. What'd you feel about that? How'd you feel about that? What made you guys go there? What was the most exciting part of the evening? Or what really grabbed your attention in that? Or how did you feel about that? What experiences have you had that give you this belief? Like, whatever it is, be interested in them. And that gets deeper questions, but that builds connection, because we all want connection. We all want connection. And sadly, even though we all want connection, often we rush a conversation. One, because we think we already know what they're going to say or what they're talking about. And two, we're impatient. And so we push, which when someone's impatient with me, I shut down and cut it off anyways. I'm like, you don't really care what I'm saying. And so their connection's severed. We just have to have the curiosity and replace the judgment. The judgment is what shuts everything down. Curiosity opens it all up. Be open, be curious. And it really makes you magnetic. When you can get really good at this skill of really active listening and being curious, people want to be around you because you make them feel special. You make them feel heard and seen. Now, I touched on this just a little bit ago, but on social media, I read a lot of comments about like being good or being kind, doing right. That, yeah, I do all that, but nobody does it back to me. So fuck it, right? But that shouldn't be why we do it. We should be being kind, being good, being curious, because it's who we are as humans. We're curious creatures. We're kind creatures. It's all the other bullshit that gets in the way and kind of hides that. Yes, I get it. You want to be heard too, right? So if I'm listening to you for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I want my turn. I want to talk too, right? I want to share my story. I get it. I get it. With that connection, you're going to get that in return. It might not be with everybody, but don't stop doing it, because in the long run, it will pay off. I promise you. I promise you. Where we get in trouble, and this is a little side shoot, but where I think we get in trouble is when we don't maintain our boundaries, when we don't have boundaries. People pleasers, changing to a me pleaser though, but people pleasers struggle with holding boundaries. That doesn't mean you stop being a good person. That doesn't mean you stop being kind. It means you start working on your boundaries. That's what I'm doing. We can do it together. Okay. This week, I invite you to try to ask 2 more questions than you usually do, and just do it in easy settings. Just have fun with it and just ask 2 questions. Now, conversations are back and forth. And so I'm not saying bombard somebody with a gazillion questions. Nobody wants that. But ask, like if somebody's telling a story, ask 2 questions. Follow up with 2 real deep questions, and then you can talk about how you relate to it, and then take it back to them and ask another question, or they may ask you a question when you relate, and that's the back and forth. A lot of times it gets awkward because we tell a story, or somebody tells us, whichever way, you tell a story and the other person doesn't say anything, or they don't really ask a question that's open-ended, or you then relate it back. Well, then the other person shut down because they told a story, but you pulled it back to yourself. Then it lays flat. Where they tell a story, you ask a couple questions, you relate back, and they'll probably ask you a couple questions, and then you go back and forth. That's how you can get rid of the awkwardness, by being curious. Just try it and see where the conversation goes. See what builds, see what connection builds, and how it feels. And let me know. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, keep going. Keep looking forward. Till next time.